Greetings and welcome. Elaine Marolakos Edelson here with Astrology Mojo. Hey, want to help you get your mojo back. And if you are not aware of me and what I say, that the planets in astrology don't do anything to you, and that we live in a cooperation with the cosmos, so that when the planets make a move, you feel it. When you make a move, the planets reflect that by way of aspects and angles in astrology. Now, I adjusted the color on this video 47 times before I started. And I'm still ghosting. One day I will figure it out. Apparently that's not today. Okay, well, I hope you join me. We are talking about the North and South nodes today, and happy Memorial Day, and thank you to all of those who help this world and this country, who choose to protect and serve. We appreciate you. So yeah, I'm distracted by the fact that I'm ghosting. No. Okay, so I've got the notes in front of me. Come join me, say hello. We're talking about the North and the South nodes in astrology. And the North node, the nodes, by the way, are adjuncts of the moon in astrology. They're not planets. They're not spheres of any kind. They are astrological calculations that deal with the position of the sun and the moon, and not to get too technical, but the North Node represents their karmic points, and the North Node represents your direction in life and your upcoming experiences and ventures. I don't want to say challenges, but sometimes it does feel like a challenge. On Thursday, when I come back, I'm going to be going through what the nodes look like in your chart, and so I want you to join me for that. We are born with our North Node in a certain sign and our South Node in a certain sign. And when the nodes come into play, we can then look at that and say, oh, the South Node represents where we've come from, our experiences, our attachments. I want to say it's a nice word for it, is a calm word for it, not the traumas or victimizations, are attachments. So whatever we're ready to let go of, that's where we look at the South Node. And by sign and position, so if your South Node is in Taurus and your North and South Node are always opposite one another. So if the South Node is in Taurus, then the North Node is in Scorpio. And but we'll get into that on Thursday, what it looks like in your chart. So if you have a chart and you know your chart, then you can look for the nodes. And now quickly, I will show you, hey, Lindsay's here, and Lucy, hello. So I will show you a screenshot of what the nodes look like. It's basically like a horseshoe. So do you see, okay, that is the South Node, and it will be in Sagittarius beginning June 4th. And then directly opposite, up there, is Gemini, North Node in Gemini. But right now, the nodes are in Cancer and Capricorn, respectively. Okay, so when I talk about the nodes, or when I look at the nodes in a person's chart, I don't, when I talk to a person when I'm giving a reading, I don't say, here's where your nodes are, or here's where, unless, they ask, or they're well-versed in astrology and they want to talk about that. But I take the whole thing into account. And so when I look at a person's nodes, I like to look at first the South Node, because that represents what you're moving away from, what you're leaving, what you need to leave behind. Now, what you need to leave behind, we don't always want to, because it's familiar, it's comfortable, we're attached to it. I'm going to come back to attachments, because that's really what it represents, the South Node. And the South Node is also where you've had particular past lives. Now, here's something really fascinating that I feel is appropriate and true in astrology, and that is the nodes change sign. They are always in retrograde motion, by the way. So they always change sign, approximately 18 months. Now, let's say in a span of 18 months that the north node is in one side and the south node is in another sign. During that time, all the people born during that time with those nodes share a common past. We might call them soul groups. You may never meet them, but if you did meet someone with the same north and south node as you would have a lot of similar behaviors. You would have a lot of similar experiences or beliefs. That's kind of fascinating, right? So, hi, Christine. Hi, Shelby. So when you look at what you want to move away from, first you have to look at what's the attachment. Now, as an example, I have a client who has a north node in Virgo and a south node in Pisces. Now, the south node in Pisces represents lifetimes of service, giving, piety, stepping back, minimizing the self, being more elusive, spacey, spiritual, or perhaps a fanatic focused on only one. There's one way. It's the religion of the year. That's the way. And the north node represents the trajectory of your opening of the door that leads you to what I like to call the relationship between the sun and the moon. Because without the sun and the moon, the nodes cannot be calculated. And so if you have, let's say, I'm getting ahead of myself. I am, because I get excited when I talk about astrology. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be doing an astrology masterclass virtual online. It'll be on Zoom. And just let me know if you're interested in joining. You can say yes in the chat box. And then if you are on my email list, you will get an email to that effect. If you're not on my email list, then you can go to astrologymojo.com and scroll to the bottom, and then you can see how to sign up for my newsletter. And then you will be part of that. And the astrology masterclass that I've been putting together is going to be so fun. And it's going to be a small group of people. And we're going to talk about the very simple way of interpreting the chart and looking at the signs, the elements, the planets, the relationship that you have to each of the houses in astrology. And if you're interested, just say yes to the masterclass in the chat. And then if you are part of my email list and you get notifications from me, then you'll hear from me. If you're not on my newsletter, then you might want to be. So go over to astrologymojo.com and just scroll to the bottom of the page and you'll see how to sign up for my newsletter. Okay, so now we're talking about the nodes. Hey, Teresa's here. Much love and blessings to you as well, Teresa. So when I talk about the nodes, I like to look at in a person's chart what these nodes have to do with you becoming your emotional, let me backtrack. You moving into your intuitive power. Because when I look at the South Node, I will immediately see what you're, as I said, attached to, what you don't want to let go of. And because you're attached to something, that means that the North Node the door can't open. You cannot activate it as much. So right now, in the general charts, we have the North Node in Cancer. So the whole global collective has been focused on nurturing, feeling more empathy, more sympathy. We see it now more than ever in the past few months, right? And then the South Node, always opposite the North Node, is in Capricorn, and the South Node is the the victim's voice that you need to let go of in order to embrace that empathy, sympathy, compassion, and then financial security. Because Cancer is a sign that really is adept at understanding the value of something. The Cancer energy rules empathy, and it guides service through finances and food, through women's and children's issues, through writing. So you might have during this, no matter where your north and south nodes are in your personal natal chart, you might have during this past 18 months experienced the need to cook more, invest more, resolve with family more, let go of the wound, the victim, to heal something that has kept you from flourishing financially or emotionally. That's been the north and south node in Capricorn and Cancer. The north node in Cancer, now about to retrograde back into Gemini on June 4th, 2020. I just have to do this because that changes the, okay. On June 4th, 2020, the North Node will retrograde back, and the nodes are always in retrograde motion. The North Node will retrograde back into Gemini, which is an air sign. And then the South Node will retrograde back into Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. Now remember, the nodes are always opposite one another, and they move in a retrograde pattern, always. And then right around that time, a little bit later, we will see Mercury go retrograde, and the Sun will be in Gemini. And so what we're going to experience around the week of June 4th, now remember, we're already in a Venus retrograde, Neptune, Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter. We talked about all the retrogrades the other day. But with the nodes going into a new sign, let's talk about that, okay? Hey, Deborah's here. Hi, Catherine. Love you back. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So the North Node moving from a water sign to an air sign, specifically Gemini. With the North Node in Gemini, starting June 4th for approximately 18 months, we're going to be looking more at networking, at ways of communicating that are more effective than they ever have been in the past. And that's the trajectory in general. And that means sharing information. Gemini is an energy that loves to gather intel, guided by Mercury, and then to share that. And it could be, as I said, a networking kind of thing, or it could be related to science or the medical industry, and or being thoughtful about your words. It could be that simple. You don't have to be in the medical industry or in the communications field to think about what you're saying before you actually say it. So we're moving toward a more articulate way of communicating and expressing that is not without feeling, right? But the North Node in Cancer had a lot of emotion around it, a lot of ups and downs, right? A lot of, pulling out the victim and the person, a lot of illnesses during that time frame, whether it be the virus or whether it be your own personal experience of what you had to let go of. Remember, the South Node is the letting go. The North Node is the door that's about to open to help you fulfill your karma. And karma is not good or bad. Karma is just a balancing of and harmonizing of energy. Hi, Kate. And so I think it's important now to look at, with the nodes about to shift into the next parallel opposites of Gemini and Sagittarius. My hair is sticking to the microphone. Now let's look at the South Node, the attachment, moving away from, and in Sagittarius, we're looking at moving away from judgment, number one, moving away from criticism, number 2, which ties in with judgment, and then moving toward the search. So as we let go, because Gemini loves to gather information, so does Sagittarius. Opposites have very similar energies, but their approach is different. So let's think about now, before we even go any further with the nodes, any pairing of nodes will always show you the next level or the cause or the, you say that there's always in hindsight, there's such knowledge and power in hindsight. So look back 18 to 19 years, that would be 2001 and 2002. During that time frame, what did you experience? The North Node was in Cancer, the South Node was in Capricorn. So if you think back to that time, and you might say, business as usual, nothing, let's see, let me think. Go back into your calendars, because whatever you just experienced in the past 18 months, if you go back to 2001 and 2002, you're going to find the threads that connect. Jazz musician Chick Corea once said, "I am the red thread between nothingness and eternity." Very profound. And I find that to be a saying that's so appropriate for the nodes, the North and the South Node, because the North Node, again, is the open door. As it starts to creak open, you have to turn back and look at, what do I need to let go of? What's holding me back? Because if I'm not willing to go forward because of fear, attachment, familiarity, which all circles back to fear and attachment. There's so many different words that you can use, but bottom line, that's what we're looking at. And the victim's voice, especially in Capricorn, with the South Node in Capricorn that we've been experiencing the past 18 months, there's been a lot of, people say, oh, my nightmares are coming true. My fears are coming true. Like, what if I lost my job and I didn't have any health insurance? What if I got sick? Or what if, who's going to take care of my kids or my dog? Or, what if I lost my job and my husband gets sick? So the victim's voice has been coming out. So what's the North Node about? In Cancer, it has been, my finger looks so pink. It just distracted me. Let's look at how can we be more empathic? How can we be more nurturing to self and others? How can we pull up that power, that individual power that a Cancer energy has to protect itself, defend itself against the elements, against harm, and then shore up the necessary whatever for the future? My husband's a Cancer, and and I have to say, throughout time, I would say, the only one Cancer that I knew was not as self-sufficient, but made sure to surround themselves with people who were, so that they got the protection that they needed. But the other Cancers that I know, or Cancer rising signs, they're very, very ambitious and think in ways that protect themselves in the future, themselves and their families. So that can definitely mean finances, right? So we're moving out of this phase now and into the Gemini Sagittarius phase of the North Node in Gemini, the South Node in Sagittarius. Now, so I want you to go back. I have to use my calculator for this. La, la, la. Who's here? Come say hello. Let me know that you're here. Hi, Sasha. Good morning. Let's see. So 2020 minus 18. So it'll be 2002 and 2003. If you go back to those years, you'll get a broader idea of what you experience. Now, if you're only 23, it's going to be, wow, birth. Or 21, it's going to be, oh my gosh, entrance into the new life. How traumatic was that? How attached are you to mom, or the womb, or your past life of not wanting to let go? So the South Node in Sagittarius shows up when I would say collectively, we are ready to let go of the judgments, inner self-judgments, and the outer criticisms that we've had that have limited our scope for knowledge. So, because Sagittarius loves to search, their quest for the truth, the Holy Grail is ongoing. It's forever. So every piece of information is gathered, looked upon, questioned, experienced, yes, but remember this, and this is what I say to all my gems and all my Sages. The moment you start thinking about an experience that you're having is the moment you stop having the experience. Ta-da! What does that mean to you? It means it's time to experience the knowledge, like, oh, yeah, someone says, I went to a theme park. It was so fun. I did this ride, personally, the Avatar ride, my favorite, thumbs up, 5-star. And I can't wait to go back. Was supposed to be there on my 60th birthday a few weeks ago. Oh, well, I'll get there again. Someone says to you, the Avatar ride was the most amazing thing. You're like, yeah, I don't really like rides. Okay. So let's explore. Because when you were little, you got on a ride after you ate and you chucked your lunch, or they make you dizzy, or they scare you, or you're not in control. Okay, list on and on and on, all the reasons you've had from the past. And yet, if you're willing to explore, like that Sagittarius, the higher vibe of Sag wants to explore the truth. Let's try that food. Ooh, look, what kind of seasoning is that? That's so cool, right? And then Gemini too is, I need to travel along with Sag. I need to experience something new. I need to change it up, shake it up, because just like any other sign, because we're people get attached. They get fixed into it is this way because it was that way. It is that way today. So apparently it's going to be that way tomorrow. So what I want you to start to think about before we get to June and when the nodes retrograde back into their next signs, Gemini, North Node, Sagittarius, South Node, is what exactly am I really fixed on? What is this stubborn thing that I have that says it is this way? If it is this way, Gemini once said to me, if it looks that way, then it probably is that way. Then that's the way it is. A Gemini said that to me once, and I said, well, I don't agree. I just dropped the card that I was flipping for the group. Where has it gone? It flew. I must disappear. Okay, I found it. Oh, how cool. This is a great fun card. All right. I'm looking at Colette Baron Reid's The Enchanted Map for art. Ooh, it's spooky, ghostly. It's ethereal. It's not spooky. It's ethereal. All right, so here we go. It is hard to see because it's kind of ghostly. Oh, there it is. Come together, number 8. Come together, North and South nodes. Let's see. Now, I'm not familiar with the speech and the definitions in these oracle cards, so I have to look at the book. Thank you for bearing with me. Love needs to be shared. Oh, I love that. Love needs to be expressed. That you're on an emotional path in all forms of expression. Romantic, familial, unconditional, spiritual. And in each instance, there is another being involved. So it's a give and take. It is a collaboration. This card assures you that love has come calling and seeks a partner in the dance. Know that you are cherished. And like a magnet, you are now attracting love into your life for harmony and partnerships. Now, it's not just for romance, but it's the coming together. It's like the meeting of the minds. When I was a kid, I used to watch this show on PBS, I think it was, called The Meeting of the Minds. I loved it. It was Steve Allen. And if anybody is old enough would remember this show, that the the people who came together in the show were people you might want to talk to in history. So Queen Elizabeth would show up and, Edgar Allan Poe, and they would have a conversation, whatever. Or Einstein and Golda Meir, whatever. And I love that because the North and the South nodes are like that. So if you can imagine, I like to, and I've said this before, I like to imagine all the celestial energies in astrology as people at a party. And the North Node and the South Node come together, and they come from emotional points, okay? The adjuncts of the moon, based on the orbit of the sun and the moon on the ecliptic around the sun, and how it deals with the earth. We don't want to get into that. Okay, but what we're looking at is when the North Node moves into a new sign, it's like this feeling of you could have been worried over something, and not aware of anything astrological or metaphysical. You're just doing your thing, and then suddenly, I feel different. I'm not so worried about that thing anymore. Now I think I have a solution. Oh. Well, isn't the universe conspiring on your behalf? I think so. So remember that. Oh, let me say hello to people. So Shelby says, South Node, same as rising Libra. So that's very interesting too. So when you look at your chart, we're going to talk about this on Thursday. I'm coming back to talk about what your nodes look like in your chart. So if you have the pairing of, North Node in Scorpio, your South Node will be in Taurus, etc., so on. So I'll talk about what those mean on Thursday when I come back. I don't know if I can get to all of them, but I will do my best. So, but right now we're just talking in general on June. And if you're just joining us, you can watch us in the replay here. Eventually it will be uploaded to YouTube. But if you're just joining us, we are talking about the North and South nodes, how they are emotional, mathematical calculations based on the moon and the earth and the ecliptic around the sun, but how they represent your karma and your trajectory toward an open door to fulfilling that karma. So some people say that the South Node is always a negative, it's okay. You've had trauma, you've had, tragedy, and a lot of times that is true. And then you carry it over into this life and you have to look at, okay, you've been attached to the trauma. You need to work that out. You need to do a Vim ice bath, or you need to do some counseling or meditation, or to look at the pattern. I would say look at the pattern, because seeing the pattern in the trauma, why you attracted a certain thing, or someone might say, oh my God, I know I died in a past life and it shows in my South Node. Okay, so then instead of talking about that for 40 years, what did you experience after you died? So let's continue the conversation that the South Node is not just a traumatic experience, but it's something now you have completed. Let's say you've mastered trauma. All right, you're a graduate. I have to do that again because I keep changing colors. So let's say you've mastered trauma or poverty consciousness, and now you're ready to move to the next thing, right? So this is a divine spiritual universe. You are not alone. You are connected. You are pure conscious love. And that pure conscious love tells you that you have memory, that you have power, that you have compassion for self, then others. Okay? Listen, if you're just joining us, I'm also going to be doing an astrology masterclass. And who's interested? Just let me know in the chat box. And if you're on my email list, you'll get an email to that effect. If you're not, then go to my website, astrologymojo.com, and you can also read your horoscope there on the horoscope page for the month. And then sign up for my newsletter. You'll find it on the homepage at the bottom. And then you'll be notified about my astrology masterclass. We're going to be talking about a very simple way to learn how to understand the planets, the elements, the houses, and I'll be there as your guide. So there's that. Taylor says, don't get stuck in the pattern, continue the conversation. That's right. What happens after? You know what I like to say to people in trauma, or people who we're working on something and they come to me and I'll say, okay. And they'll say, I just, I can't. This is what it's been. This is how it is. And I'll say, okay, what if it weren't that way? How would you like it to look? And then they say, well, this, but then they default to their south node. Well, I'd like to do this, but I can't because, and I'd say, okay, how about we look at, well, what if there was zero restrictions? What if there were zero restrictions? What if life were wonderful? What if everything was beautiful? What would that look like? Oh gosh, wouldn't it be great to have their money? It's like, or their body. It's like, well, you don't want to wish for that. You don't know that beautiful body could have cancer brewing, or an illness or an ailment that is, tragic. Why would you wish for something? Because you want to get out of where you think you are. But instead, let's keep talking about what happens next. What happens next? That's what the north and south nodes can help you to do. So as we move, and I'm going to wrap this up, I'll be back on Thursday to talk about the nodes in your chart. The north node, in essence, is the direction that you're headed. It to unfold your talents, your gifts, your karma, and karma's not good or bad. It's just a balancing and a harmonizing of energy. To move toward new ventures, to be brave, to say, I don't know about finances, but I think I'm ready to learn. But you got to let go of it never happens. I'm always poor. It always gets stolen from me. Yeah. So the north node is the direction in this lifetime. The south node is what you just mastered in the last lifetime, no matter what it was. You could have mastered being a parent, and now you're here to be an independent individual. What do you want to do with that? How do you want to progress? How do you want to move forward? That's exciting, right? So think about that. And just a quick little thing too as well, that the south node is going to be in a fire sign. And fire signs represent passion and taking the initiative and having that feeling of newness and expansion and bursts of energy. And the north node is going to be in an air sign of Gemini, and that deals so much with communication, inner communication, body, mind, spirit connection. And here's what I want you to ponder as we leave today. That the body, mind, spirit connection they are not separate things. And I will say, oh, that's your holy earthly astrological trinity. But the trine comes together in one point. And that is a wholeness. So your body, mind, spirit are one. Your body has certain needs that your spirit doesn't. Your mind has certain needs that your body doesn't. So we have to look at those things separately before we can then combine them and make that commitment to unity. Let's do that, because you are pure conscious love. I'll be back, and we're going to talk about the nodes through your chart and what each pairing represents next time. So thank you for being here. If you've missed any part of this, you can catch me in the replay on Facebook, or you can eventually see it on YouTube. Thanks, everybody. Teresa and Marianne, nice to see you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Go and have a beautiful day, and let's honor those who have chosen to serve, serve and protect us. Because in honor of the North Node in Cancer, we appreciate those people. Thank you. Blessings. Be sparkly. I'll see you again.